Professor Haystacks here. Today I'm going to try something a little different. I am going to take a look at the recent Steven Universe event, Wanted. Alright, so in Steven Universe Wanted, a couple of major things happen. We'll start with the first chronologically, that is the trial, which is actually the second or third episode of the event. In this case, we have a defense attorney, I forget what the gym name was, that tries to defend Steven. Steven attempts to describe what happened and guesses that the break point was used, but Blue Diamond corrects that it was done with a sword, which is apparently according to eyewitnesses. As soon as I saw that, I thought, wait a second. Rose's sword can't shatter gems. It's deliberately designed to cut through hard light images only. Though that does bring an interesting question of what would happen if it was attempted to be used on a human. But let's ignore that for now. When the attorney then accuses the diamonds of having a hand in it, Yellow Diamond immediately poofs her, and then the other attorney, and basically goes nuts. This certainly seems to cast aspersions on her. At the very least, she knows more than she's letting on. There's a couple of broad possibilities. The first is that Pink arranged it herself, possibly or even probably in concert with Rose. In this case, Rose poofed Pink and stored her somewhere, possibly in the chest in Lion. We found out this time that Lion's powers are at least not entirely a result of whatever's in the chest, so that's a separate question. The problem with this is that it would have been nearly impossible for all the gems present to be in the know. Very clearly some of them weren't, since one of the rubies was there. The next guess from that would be that the Pearl knew, which is why she didn't call out, but the troops did not and were just arranged to leave a deliberate hole in the defenses. The other possibility is that another diamond arranged it. This is probably not actually Rose that did it in this case. Two broad possibilities here. One is that Pink was actually shattered and the other that she wasn't. If she was not shattered, then whoever arranged it simply arranged for a hole in the defenses and told the Pearl to keep quiet. Rose then poofed Pink Diamond. The problem of this is that the Pearl probably wouldn't take another diamond's word over her own diamond's safety. And that's the problem with any notion that another diamond did it. That said, it's possible the Pearl was swapped out at the last minute. We don't have enough details. It's also possible that she was actually shattered, in which case it probably wasn't Rose that did it. Because the gems of a given type look extraordinarily similar, it would have been relatively easy to disguise another rose quartz as the Rebel rose quartz. Cover up the real gem, put a fake gem, get a sword that looks like roses. This sword would not be specially designed not to shatter gems, and thus could if driven with sufficient force. Now, if this is the case, there's two possibilities for who arranged it. Yellow and white. We have yet to see White Diamond. Now, it's possible that she's just off in space somewhere, but given that it took them time to get there and they assembled for a trial, it seems likely that if she wasn't there in person, she would have videoed in on the channel. That means White Diamond is probably no more. Given that Rose is not blamed for that, White Diamond was probably killed earlier. Not in that rebellion, but either died due to an accident or possibly was killed in an inter-diamond conflict. If that's the case, that she died in an inter-diamond conflict, Yellow may have killed White Diamond as well. But focusing on Pink Diamond, Yellow's motive for killing Pink Diamond may have been that she wanted... Yellow's motive for killing Pink Diamond may have been that Pink Diamond was going to parley with Rose, and Yellow Diamond couldn't allow that, so she arranged Pink Diamond's either poofing or shattering in order to put an end to any peace talks, and incite Blue Diamond to use their corruption weapon, whatever it is, on the Earth and the rebels. In all of these, real diamonds aren't that hard to shatter, but gems seem hardier than the gemstones they parallel. So it's possible that the sword, if it wasn't rose quartz and pink diamond was actually shattered, it's not entirely clear how a sword would have shattered pink diamond. It would have had to have been specially designed. Now, while I'm here and discussing the shatter point or break point or whatever it is called, I forget, I want to talk about bismuth. Aired a while ago. I thought about talking about it at the time, didn't. It segues pretty nicely here. And that's that bismuth strategy makes some sense. The problem is exactly what happened when pink diamond was either shattered or apparently shattered, and that's mutual escalation. This is why in the various satellite conflicts of the Cold War, there was never a nuclear exchange, because one party using it would have meant the other party did, which would have resulted in mutually assured destruction. Same general principle here. Bismuth may not have known about the corruption weapon. She may have. But regardless, even if the corruption weapon didn't exist, the diamonds could easily have built their own shattering devices, and in fact may have based on this episode. Or rather, the Wanted episode, the trial. That being the case, in order to actually use the shatter point, they would have had to have staged a lightning raid that involved killing all the diamonds simultaneously, or at least in very close proximity. Because that way, the surviving diamonds would not exist, and thus would not be able to retaliate. Homeworld would have been thrown in disarray, and as the only leader present, Rose could probably have assumed control over the entire gem world. In fact, if done surgically enough, it could have been that only the diamonds would have had to have been shattered in this case. If that was the case, it is possible that this strategy may have worked. The difficulty here is that how would they get that close to all of the diamonds simultaneously? As soon as you shatter one, the others are put on guard and you're not going to get at them. And the other case is, even if you did have that opportunity, it should be easy enough to build weapons like Rose's sword, poof the diamonds, assuming they can be poofed. There's a theory that maybe they can't be. Bubble them and send them back to Earth. While this could motivate other gems to try to rescue the diamonds, you could just threaten to shatter them at that point, because then you have hostages. Usually in that sort of scenario, live hostages are preferable to dead martyrs, but Gem Society is so dependent on the diamonds that shattering them may well have been the preferable option from a tactical standpoint. Besides that, Lapis was cracked by Bismuth, apparently by accident, and probably other gems were cracked, and the diamonds themselves had shattered many gems. They hadn't deliberately shattered rebel gems in combat, as best as can be told, but the mere fact that that was a possibility, the gems in this one talk about shattering gems all the time, means that the risk of escalation was not as big, because they were shattering gems anyway. Maybe they didn't deliberately shatter them in combat, but they would probably shatter any prisoners. Now, granted, it's possible that they hadn't deliberately shattered gems before that, and that only happened because of pink diamond shattering. But we don't have enough information on that. We also don't know... All right. Moving on to the rest of the special after the trial, we find out something about the origin of Lion. When Stephen heals Lars near the point of death, Lars turns the color of Lion, basically, and also has a portal in his hair. This means Lion was probably a regular lion that Rose healed on the brink of death. Given that Rose has lions that are not pink in the timeline of the journal from one of the founders of Beach City, it seems likely that she did that sometime after the war. This means that Lion is probably not pink diamond. My guess is it's just a regular lion that had magic used on it, albeit a well-trained lion. It's possible that the chest contains pink diamond or her shards, but we currently don't know that yet. In this case, that the pocket dimensions are connected is weird, and it suggests that they're linked to the healing power. The pocket dimensions being connected is probably because they were both created by the same gem, but one wonders what would happen if a different rose quartz used this power. The fact that no other rose quartz had healing powers is evidenced by the fact that Homeworld still doesn't know how to heal cracked gems, would indicate that it's not an easy power to obtain, and it may actually be something that all rose quartzes can do, although it's possible that Stephen's gem's defect, which caused rose quartz to rebel, is also somehow linked to that. This implies the healing power might be somehow extra dimensional. Now, Rose probably discovered the dimension by accident when healing Lion. I also wonder why Stephen never thought of taking scuba equipment. You'd think Connie would have suggested that at some point. She's pretty on the ball. It's basically a series of wormholes. Now, this raises the risk of causality violation, but you would need at least 3 beings for this to work, and one of them would have to travel on a warp drive with you. So currently this is neatly avoided, but this is similar to the superluminal subway model of warp drive, which has the problem that it can allow time travel when it wasn't intended to do that. And because you don't know what that would do, if it even is possible, it's either not possible or not something you really want to risk. Regardless, the gems in this episode, I note that one fusion we see probably has a ruby as part of it. It's interesting that she has 4 arms when Garnet only has 2. Bit of a mystery there, but the hair indicates she's probably part ruby. The split gem, interesting. It shows us basically a Siamese twin in gems. The pink sapphire, there's actually a technical name, but I don't know it. It's something long. I found started to get a little bit annoying. I mean, it was funny for a little bit, but after a while I was like, well, why can she not turn off her visions? It's implied that Garnet can just not use her future vision, but it's possible that ability is part of the fusion and that sapphires can't turn off their visions. If they could, or it could be part of her defect that she can, because if she could, you'd think she just used her regular sight, because then she would be living in the present instead of something like 5 seconds to a minute in the past. Anyway, and then there's the big worm gem, which frankly creeped me out. I mean, I like the concept there. Bunch of gems that wanted to fuse, and you know, there's metaphor there, I'm sure, but it seemed nice enough. Just the worm body was creepy. I feel like a giant woman would have been preferable, but who knows how these things work. Well, that about covers Steven Universe. I might do more of these. I might not. But for now, good night and drive safely.